morning class. Audible? Yes. So we'll start Anthro. Okay. And the order of dealing with Anthro is 1.1 to 1.3, 2.1, 2.2, chapter 8, chapter 6. Along with the 6, I would deal with 2.3 to 5th chapter, then 7th chapter, whatever is remaining with 2.3 to 5th chapter. Right? The reason for me to handle it in this manner is very clear, that the interlinkage of 6th with 2.3 to 5th chapter, that's going to be important. Okay, because whole of my Anthro is centered around 6th chapter. The strength I have with 6th chapter, the more better it is. That is there. Then once we finish this, we'll straight away get into physical Anthro. Although physical Anthro will appear to be a large section, I will cluster physical Anthro in such a way that we'll finish physical Anthro in 30-35 hours max. Antaku minchi em undadu dantlo. Okay, because whole of 9.1 to 9.3 is going to be one cluster. Then 9.4 vis-a-vis 9.1 to 9.3 vis-a-vis 9.6 is one cluster. Then 9.7, 9.8 will be different. 10th and 12th will be a cluster. I mean, if you get the syllabus copied tomorrow, you'll be able to understand what I'm linking. So physical Anthro will start off after we finish socio-cultural. Is this clear? The timeline is very clear. At any cost, it would get over by August 20th with respect to Anthropology paper 1. Then you will have Nadeem sir coming and dealing with paper 2. Then after that, again I will come back and deal with the value addition of paper 2. Right? So after this you will have paper 2. Then after this you will have value addition of paper 2. So that is there. Okay, so that is the overall timeline with respect to Anthro as a subject. Okay. Now starting off, when you look at Anthropology, are 2-3 disclaimers. One, write running notes without fail. 2, the class notes will be provided, which is dictated, which is written, that will be provided as part of your group. I'll post the respective chapter PDF in your group, right? 3, the respective chapter mains oriented revision handout will be given by hand. Suppose if I'm finishing 1.1 to 1.3, you will have handouts given by hand for mains revision notes. 3, 4, when we start 6th chapter. When we start 6th chapter, for every thinker, there will be a one-pager which is going to be given to you. Ante, a one-pager is going to be like a revision for rest of my Anthropology. 4, 5 PYQs of Anthropology will be given. Right? The DTP has been delayed. The DTP is under process. Any given day within next 15 days, you will have the physical copy in your hand. That Anthropology PYQs will be of 2 volumes. One will be volume 1, the other one will be volume 2. It is not divided as per the paper, it is divided as per the years of question papers. Such that it is not that if I read one volume it is sufficient, you will have to read both the volumes. మనకు ఒక సాటిస్ఫాక్షన్ ఉంటుంది. నైట్ పేపర్ 1 ఉంటే అది చదువుతా, పేపర్ 2 లేకపోతే అది చదువుతా. మీకు ఆప్షన్ లేదు, ఖచ్చితంగా 2 వాల్యూమ్స్ చదవాల్సిందే. బికాస్ both the volumes have paper 1 and paper 2. That has been ensured, and within next 15 days I would ensure that that is there in your hand. ఎట్టి పరిస్థితుల్లో. Is this clear? Right? So the deliverables are very clear here. Running notes when I am explaining. 1, class notes in your group from which you will have to fare it. 3, handouts with respect to the mains revision notes of respective topic. 4, thinker specific handout which is 1 page of thinker. 4, 5 PYQ books of volume 1 and volume 2. Clear, right? There is no deviation on these deliverables at any cost in the context. And any given day, the biggest deliverable that you have is the subject, right? The subject is the deliverable that I'm going to deal with, and you will see the respective progression that is happening across. Slowly, once we gain the momentum, we will start daily answer writing with respect to single question, and then we will get into topic wise tests in the context of anthropology. Is this clear, right? ఎందుకంటే కొంతమందికి ఆన్సర్ రైటింగ్ నేర్పిస్తానా లేదా, అవసరం లేనప్పుడే నేర్పిస్తాను, అవసరం ఉన్నప్పుడు ఖచ్చితంగా నేర్చుకుంటారు, నేర్పిస్తాను, అండ్ దట్ విల్ బి దేర్ యాజ్ పార్ట్ ఆఫ్ యువర్ daily test, and that will be there as part of your topic wise test. Is this clear, right? So this is going to be the deliverables with respect to anthropology as a class. Now when we look at anthropology as such, it is derived, keep writing running notes, right? And as usual, as it applies, if you don't understand anything at any point of time, you straight away raise your hand and ask that I don't understand this, I'm more than happy to explain. Okay? Now anthropology is derived from the word anthropos and logos. When we say anthropos, anthropos meaning human, anthropos meaning human, logos meaning systematic study, logos meaning systematic study. So if you have to define anthropology in a simpler manner, it is nothing but the holistic study of human being. It is nothing but the holistic study of human being. It is nothing but the systemic study of all aspects of human being. It is nothing but the systemic study of all aspects of human being. Now when we look at anthropology, you see father of anthropology is Aristotle, right? You would see that you will not study anything about this person, but he is father of anthropology. He says anthropology is the gossip about human beings, and anthropologists are the gossipers. He says anthropology is the gossip regarding human beings, and anthropologists are the gossipers who talk about themselves. Who talk about themselves. That is one basic understanding with respect to anthropology here. It is holistic study, one. And not only that, it is believed to be a gossip of human beings. And who is gossiping around? Anthropologists are gossiping. Now, as such, when you look at other definitions of anthropology here, we see we have a person by name Marvin Harris. You will again see this person in the 6th chapter in cultural materialism. That you will again see this person in the 6th chapter in cultural materialism. Now Marvin Harris writes a book, The Rise of Theory of the Rise of Anthropological Theory. The Rise of Anthropological Theory. And what does he define anthropology as? He says it is the study of all aspects. It is the study of all aspects of whole mankind, in all places, at all times. In all places, at all times. Right? Now that means, again, what is it meaning, my dear? It is meaning the holistic study of human being. Now, whenever I say holistic study, it's very simple. You can go and refer to 1.3, which is talking about branches of anthropology. In that, what would you see with respect to 1.3 is, we'll see 4 different branches. We'll proceed. How are we going to classify anthropology and what are the different types? We have one more definition here. This one more definition is given by Herskowitz. One more definition is given by Herskowitz. Now, he talks about, now he writes a book, Man and His Work. He writes a book, Man and His Work. He says anthropology is nothing but study of man and his works. Whatever is the title of the book, he defines anthropology in the same manner. He writes a book, Man and His Works. What is he seen to be defining anthropology as? It is nothing but study of man and his works. That means one thing is very, very clear here, that overall anthropology is what, my dear? Study of man. And in case if you have to write some general definition, just write down one line. Just write down one line. Anthropology is holistic, integrated, comparative, historical, and universal study of mankind, over time and space. Over time and space. Is this clear? Now that means this is a comprehensive definition of anthropology. More importantly, when they ask you what is the scope of anthropology or what is the relevance of anthropology or why anthropology is unique or how is anthropology holistic, for any of these questions, because when we were doing our PYQ analysis in the 2 sessions, you would have observed that one question is compulsory from 1.1 to 1.3, and that was also a 15 marker or a 20 marker, and it was always focusing on what, my dear? Relevance of anthropology, significance of anthropology, the uniqueness of anthropology, holistic nature of anthropology. It చూసాం మనము. So in case whenever we have these questions, please remember the answer to this is same as branches of anthropology. You don't have to be confused at all. The answer is same as the branches of anthropology. Right? Whatever be the question from these areas, we will only write same answer. It's only that you will contextualize according to the question. Now, when you see branches of anthropology, we have a person by name Franz Boas. You will again see this person in 6th chapter. In historical particularism, you will see Franz Boas. Franz Boas divides and classifies anthropology into various branches. And when you look at the various branches of anthropology, there are inherently 4 branches which are mentioned in your syllabus as well. The first branch that you see is the socio-cultural anthropology. The first branch you see is socio-cultural anthropology. The second one that you see is physical or biological anthropology. Socio-cultural, physical or biological. The third one that you see is linguistic anthropology. And the fourth one that we see is archaeological anthropology. The fourth one that we see is archaeological anthropology. Now, in the context of socio-cultural anthropology, now don't you think the name itself is having 2 things here? One, it is talking about society. 2, it is talking about culture. 1, it is talking about society. 2, it is talking about culture. Now, whatever is the syllabus in 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, 3, 4, 5, I would say 3, 4, 5. That is going to be the scope of socio-cultural anthropology. That means when I show you these chapters, so what is the scope of socio-cultural anthropology? See, 1.3 is branches of anthropology. The scope of this is, look at 2.1, it is talking about nature of culture, nature of society, marriage, family, kinship, economic organizations, political organizations, religion. Political organizations and religion. So can I say all of these are part of what, my dear? All of these are part of socio-cultural anthropology. But when you are writing, will you write it like that? Will you write like, socio-cultural anthropology is equals to syllabus of anthropology? Will you write? What will you do? You will have to paraphrase and write. Now, when you're talking about socio-cultural anthropology, it deals with what? Society. The first aspect of society it deals with is what? The social structure. It deals with the social structure. 2, it deals with social groups. 3, it deals with social organizations. Or it is going to deal with the social institutions. It's going to deal with social institutions. And it is also going to deal with something called as the social stratification and hierarchy. Social stratification and hierarchy. 5, it is also going to deal with something called as the social control mechanism. It is also going to deal with something called as the social control mechanism. Now here, I will have to give examples for each of it. Now when you go and see, I have just copied the syllabus. Right? When you go and see second chapter 2.1, 2.2, I have just written the syllabus here. But what is social structure? Something like when I say I am going to study the structure of village, where paper 2. But in anthropology, as a subject, will you see it as paper 1, paper 2, or is it overall subject? It's overall subject. So I will have to bring in the aspects of paper 2 into paper 1 as well whenever I am writing. So I will write in social structure 1, understanding the study of village. In social groups, I can say something like ethnic groups. Something like ethnic groups. And a simple example I can write is what, my dear? Race. Simple example is what? Race. Now, when I look at social institutions, whatever we have discussed were what, my dear? Social institutions. That is what? Marriage, family, religion, economic organizations, kinship. All of these were what? Social organizations and social institutions. That's easy again. Now, what is social stratification? What is stratification? Division. Tell me one example for a division. Beautiful caste system. Caste system. Caste system is what? Caste system is differentiating. Caste system is what? Stratification. Social control. What is social control? Controlling the society. Controlling the society here means what? Controlling the behavior. Yes, social control. For example, social control can be rules of marriage. Can we marry however we want? No. Can we marry our sister? No. Can you marry the brother? No. Why is that? Why is that? The society is saying that there is a respective order in the society. And you'll have to maintain that order in the society, and in that particular context, you cannot marry however you want, whomever you want, whenever you want, whyever you want. There is a logic behind, because I will have to control the society. And not only that, can I say law is a social control mechanism? I have law, I have judiciary. All of that is ensuring what, my dear? Social control mechanism. What is social control? Now, why don't you go in wrong route? Although in India it happens, but otherwise. Now, why to come to institute? You go there, take U-turn and come. I could have cut at Brown Bear and come see them. And police also will come see them. And my fear here is what? This Fudu fellow coming. See them. Right? If he doesn't come, then your day is good. If he comes, it's a bad day. Fine. Right? Some petty case. You will have to go there. Anna, why are you fearing? Why are you under control? Because of law. Law is a social control mechanism. That means most of my political organizations are seen to be ensuring a social control mechanism. Most of my political organizations are seen to be ensuring a social control mechanism. Are you understanding? So what is the scope of socio-cultural? One part is society. See, anthropology is all dependent upon syllabus. You know syllabus well, you can write at least 4 to 5 answers in the paper. and one of those areas is 1.1 to 1.3. We will write 2.1 to 5th chapter, 6th chapter, 7th chapter, 8th chapter, and rest of the syllabus, and we'll finish 1.3. Right? What is the second aspect that this is going to deal with? It is going to deal with culture. Now, when it is dealing with culture, you see, it is going to deal with norms, values, traditions. It's going to deal with norms, values, traditions, customs. It's going to deal with civilization, the process of civilization. It is also going to deal with enculturation, acculturation, acculturation, transculturation, a contra-culturation. We'll discuss all of this. In second chapter 2.1, we will discuss all of this. But otherwise, what is my culture dealing with? Enculturation process. Enculturation means what, my dear? However, we are being brought up. That is what we call it as enculturation. We are engaging with the culture. We are learning the culture. When we are learning the culture and engaging with the culture, we call that as what, my dear? Enculturation. In the similar manner, acculturation and transculturation is when two cultures are interacting. Now, suddenly you see that we have some culture from our birth. That is what is called as enculturation process. Now, when we are out in the society, what are we seeing, my dear? It is one culture which is alone prevailing, or you have multiple cultures which are prevailing. Multiple cultures. Now, when there are multiple cultures which are prevailing, automatically what happens? You see cultural interactions take place. When you have these cultural interactions which are going on, sometimes what can you experience? You might be experiencing something called as culture shock. What is culture shock? I am shocked by seeing the differences in the culture. Yes or no? Now, suddenly, you were an engineering student and suddenly you were exposed to the syllabus of general studies. What happens? You're in shock. Right? We come from rural background. And in case if we are exposed to the urban culture, we are shocked. Don't you think so? Right? We express in different manners, my dear. That's a different issue. Ayya. And you'll immediately say, Samajam etu potundi. నువ్వు ఎటు పంపిస్తే అటు పోద్ది. They say that. Now, what is this difference that is existing? This was one culture where they have learned. This was second culture where they have learned. And automatically what is going to happen? I see some sort of cultural difference. When will I experience this cultural difference? When these two cultures are interacting, I will experience cultural difference. And when am I going to experience culture shock? When the difference is too much. When the difference is too much. Now, for suppose, have you seen in movies that the old times, that you see a boy and a girl being friends? How are they? They used to be 1 mile away. That used to go on. Yes. Now, suddenly from that particular cultural setup, now you have shifted to Madhapur, financial city, that Cyberabad, that region. Now there, how is the men and women with respect to their friendship? Are they 1 mile away or 1 centimeter away? Right? They say, hey dude. Now suddenly you're like, why is this culture shock, my dear? Because of cultural difference which is existing. And this is only possible now. Till I did not see this Madhapur culture, or till I did not see this Hyderabad culture, whatever, don't you think I was comfortable and thinking that was my culture? Yes. So when cultures are interacting, I will experience culture shock, and that is where we will discuss about when cultures are interacting, what is happening. That is with respect to what? Acculturation, transculturation. Then we will also study one dynamic aspect little later called as culture lag. What is lag? Slow. Right? కొన్నిసార్లు సబ్జెక్టులు ఏమనిపిస్తాయి? lag అనిపిస్తాయి. Anthropology will not be. Lag అనిపిస్తుంటాయి. ఎందుకు అనిపిస్తుంటాయి? One, because the way the subject is. Two, the person who is explaining it. ఇంకా అది ఎట్లుంటుందంటే ఇలా ఉన్న అన్నట్టుంటుంది. అంటే ఏంటి? What is happening when I say it is lag? There is some difference in the pace. There is some difference in the pace. Now, in the culture also, we see there is some difference in the pace. What is the difference in the pace that we would study on a later date? For any culture, my dear, for any culture, what do you see? You see there are two aspects which are existing. One is the material aspect, the other one is the non-material aspect. One is the material aspect, the other one is non-material aspect. Now, when I say material and non-material, what is my understanding? Material aspect here means what, my dear? Material aspect here means the materialistic culture that I am dealing with. Mobile is material, right? My car is material, or the building is material. Jewelry, material. Dress, material. Cuisine, food, material. All these are what, my dear? Materialistic part of the culture. But what is non-material part of the culture? Caste system. Is caste system material or non-material? Non-material. Yes or no? Norms, traditions, customs, values, the emotional bond and the feelings. All these are what, my dear? Language is material or non-material? Non-material. What is observed in the context of this culture is sometimes we see that the material culture is seen to be changing very fast, but whereas non-material culture is changing slow. And please understand, my dear, it is very easy for a material culture to change. It's very easy for a material culture to change. You might be wearing still dhoti, but eating pizza. What is that culture? I am still rooted to my traditions by wearing dhoti, but my cuisine, which is a materialistic aspect, has changed. I might be using iPhone. Either my latest 18 or 17. 17 Pro, but I will not agree for intercaste marriage system. Yes, absolutely. Now, I might be extremely westernized with respect to material culture, but I am still very traditional when it comes to the thinking process. So what is seen to be happening? The material culture is seen to be changing fast, but the non-material culture is not changing so fast. The thought process need not change. Now, don't you think still that rigidity in the thought process is existing? Now, just because people live in big buildings, does that mean they're completely progressive in nature? No. Here, big building is a material culture, but rigid mindset is what? Non-material. And whenever we see this difference in the change, we call that phenomena as what, my dear? Cultural lag. What is this lag? When there is a lag between material and non-material. You might be a civil servant, but still holding back to the principles of patriarchy. Yes or no? There are a lot of instances. You might be into bureaucracy, but you're still supporting your caste people, but you're still opposing other caste people. That's existing. That's there. Mavadu, Manavadu, Manakulapodu. Now that Manakulapodu, Mavadu, Manodu is what, my dear? Non-material aspect. But you are using Benz car. You're using some fantastic phone. You're living on the 48th floor of gated community. Are you understand? So what is the fundamental difference that I see? There is a lag that is existing with material and non-material culture. So my culture will also study about these two aspects. Tomorrow we'll discuss. Not tomorrow, maybe second, third class. Right? So you see that the culture aspect will deal with all of these dimensions. And not only that, this will also deal with how did the culture evolve. How did the culture evolve is also definitely an ambit in the context of socio-cultural anthropology, which you need to understand. Yes. So all these are what, my dear? Scope of socio-cultural anthropology. Scope of socio-cultural anthropology. You can also write this as a 10 marker. One more is what? If they ask you scope of anthropology, first is scope of socio-cultural anthropology. Second, now an extended branch of scope, the socio-cultural anthropology, is linguistic anthropology. Now linguistic anthropology is what, my dear? Part and parcel of socio-cultural anthropology. Linguistic anthropology is part and parcel of socio-cultural anthropology. That means both are intertwined. And definitely one component which is relating your culture and society is what, my dear? One component which is relating your culture and society is language. And when you look at linguistic anthropology deals with evolution of language. It deals with evolution of language. Not only that it is dealing with evolution of language, it is dealing with the different forms of communication. Now, when I say different forms of communication, how many types do we have, my dear? Verbal and non-verbal communication. How many times do we have? Verbal and non-verbal communication. Verbal ante enti? Words. Non-verbal ante enti? Some gestures. Some gestures. Do you think it is only gestures? No. We will see different kinds. Haptics, proxemics, kinesics. There are different kinds which are existing. Now just imagine, just by looking at how are you in the class, I can tell you whether you are interested or not. How? Some fellow will be sitting at the edge of the seat and listening. Inkedo annattu. Some fellow will be leaning back. Some fellow is in stable condition. Samasthiti. Right? Whatever happens in the class, let it happen. Even if the building is shaking, I am okay. Now that is what, my dear, I am able to understand by your body language. That is a non-verbal communication. Now sometimes when I am teaching you something which should enter your head, I will immediately come forward and lean like this. Why? Proxemics. That means when I am coming closer to you, automatically what is happening? You are definitely going to get my attention. Proxemics. Right? Now, for suppose if I'm interacting with you outside. Now, if it is a male candidate, when they're talking to me, I'll definitely put some hand. Male. Why do I do that? Haptics, touch. Now, when I want to reinforce, when I want to imbibe a friendly conversation with this respective person, what do we do? Touch. Are you again? That is gender specific, right? Haptics and చెప్పాడు sir. నువ్వు ఏడో కొడతారు. That's why I'm being specific. Are you understanding? So why the touch? Or sometimes your parents. Classic example. Now, when your mom is trying to tell you something emotional and which you are not listening also, she'll come sit next to you, catch your hand and tell. What is that? Haptics. That's a kind of non-verbal communication which is existing. Non-verbal communication which is existing. So what do you see? Linguistic anthro will study about these also. Linguistic anthro will also study about what is the structure of language. Now, you know, any language which is existing will have a respective structure. When I say that it's going to have a respective structure, what does that mean? It will have some syntax. It will have some grammar. It will have some framing. Yes or no? Now, just imagine I talk to you in a different manner. Will you accept? Why are you not accepting? The structure of the language is not followed. Right? Suppose if I reframe this statement and say, language not followed, structure very tough, understanding, no understanding, not understanding. You not understood. Now, why are you unable to accept this? Because every language will have structure. There is a syntax, there is a grammar. Now, when I pronounce the words in a different manner also, what's going to happen, my dear? The pronunciation is going to be very different. And you are not going to accept the phonetics of it, because automatically what happens when I say language, there is a order. Tomorrow on a later date, we'll see a beautiful theory given by Levi-Strauss. Levi-Strauss will come in the 6th chapter. He says structuralism. He says whole of the society is seen to be maintaining its structure because of exchange. And he says 3 things are important to be exchanged for society to maintain its structure. Levi-Strauss. Levi-Strauss. 1, words. 2, goods. 3, women. And he says that women, exchange of women is very, very important for the society to maintain its order. Now here, exchange of women fundamentally means it is for marital systems. It is for marriage. It is for marital systems. And don't you think what am I exchanging will determine the strength of relation? Now maximum we can exchange is what? Words. Yes? Sometimes maybe later we can exchange goods. Now I know when I exchange words, my relation is like this. When I exchange goods, it's getting deeper. When I exchange women, it's getting even deeper. Obviously. Now when you exchange women, what are you becoming, my dear? Relatives. Yes or no? Now when you exchange goods, you're becoming what? Friends, peer group. When I'm exchanging words, what am I having? I know each other. I know each other. So that means the degree of relation is increasing with respect to what are we exchanging in the society. That we'll study on a later date. And one more he says is, Babu, structure of language is fantastic. But nobody knows what is the thought behind the structure. He says language is present in your mind. Now, did you ever understand why was these statements made in these manner only? Any logic? No logic. Now, why was your language being spoken in the manner it is spoken? Do you know the logic? అసలు ఇది ఎందుకు ఇలానే మాట్లాడాలి, ఈ సెంటెన్స్ ఎందుకు ఇలా ఉంది, వేరేలా ఎందుకు లేదు? Probable, no. And he says all of these are present within mind. And how do you learn language? In the process of socialization. When you're in the process of socialization, what is happening, my dear? You keep on listening to this. Now you see, after 6 months, when you say A, baby also will say A. Right? You raise the hand, that will also. The theory of imitation. Imitation. And slowly, when you try to speak something, he will also will tell in some language which you never understand. Only the mom understood. Yes or no? And I wanted. వాడు నేను తిడుతున్నాడో అర్థం కాదు, మాట్లాడుతున్నాడో అర్థం కాదు, బట్ ఏదో మాట్లాడుతున్నాడు. దట్ మీన్స్ వాట్ ఈస్ హీఈస్ ఫ్రేమింగ్ దట్ లాంగ్వేజ్ విత్ ఇన్ ది మైండ్, విత్ ఇన్ ద థాట్. సో దట్ ఈస్ వాట్ ఈస్ సీన్ టు బి ద స్ట్రక్చర్ ఆఫ్ లాంగ్వేజ్. The third or the fourth aspect with respect to linguistic anthropology is how is language related to culture? How is language related to society? You see, this respective relation is present whenever we are discussing about linguistic anthropology. When we say that respective relation which is present with respect to linguistic anthropology, what are we seeing? How is language influencing culture? How is culture influencing language? How is language influencing society? How is society influencing language? A classic example you see, my dear. Most of the words which are framed are patriarchal in India. Yes. For example, the governor's place is what is called as Raj Bhavan. Why not Rani Bhavan? We say Rashtra Pati. Why not Patni? Now we have female. Female is our president. But we are calling it as what? Rashtrapati Bhavan. Why Pati? Why not Patni? Why? That language is indicating the influence of patriarchy. Now when the lawyer is pleading, they say my lord. Why? Huh? No female judge we have. Are you understanding? Now when we are discussing something, when we are describing something, we say mankind. Why no womankind? Womankind also is there. Then why do we say whole mankind? Anthropology is study of mankind. No womankind. Now why are you subsuming that women are part of men? In mankind, it means you are subsuming women being part of men. Now you would have said womankind and men being part of women. We say man-animal conflict. Yeah, women will not have conflict with animals. They say no, man-animal conflict. Now you see, in 2020 or 2021, judiciary came up with some document saying gender sensitive and gender neutral terminology in judiciary. It says that from now onwards we are going to have gender neutral terminologies. Now you see, Raj Bhavan has been renamed as Lok Bhavan. It's no more Raj Bhavan, it is Lok Bhavan. What is Lok Bhavan? People. It is gender neutral. Man-animal conflict has been reframed in the terms as human-animal conflict. Human means which includes man and women. Now don't you think my structure of thought the language is influenced by whom, my dear? It is influenced by the societal structure which is present. The societal structure which is present. Now you see the language which is spoken by somebody living in urban area, somebody living in rural area. Somebody living in urban area will say, I did this. I want this. I will do this. When somebody who is living in rural area will say, we, us. Why is the difference? The value system that you see in the rural area is classically dependent upon what, my dear? It is dependent upon community-centric life. Now, when I see the value system that is existing in the urban area is what? Community-centric or individual-centric? Are you understanding? So, my language will influence culture. Culture will influence language. How is language influencing culture? Now, suppose, nuvu, meeru. What is the difference? Tum, aap. What is the difference? Respect. Now you will come and tell me, Anu class appla. Or you will tell, Meeru. I don't expect although, but why is this? Language is going to influence my culture. Yes or no? Now I keep telling this example that, for suppose I say that UPSC is impossible. What will happen to you? Don't you think my language is going to influence your thought, influence your behavior, influence your culture? I say UPSC impossible, waste. Now, for suppose if I say, see, UPSC is doable. Exam is not tough. It's only that process is little tough. I said the same thing. But what am I telling you? I'm telling you, I'm giving you a ray of hope by telling that UPSC is doable. If somebody can do it, it is doable. Somebody who cannot do it, it is not doable. It is doable. Exam is not tough. But it is little, the process is little tough. I said little. Ante edo ఏముంది అయిపోద్ది అన్నట్టు. Are you understanding this? So fundamentally, overall, my language is going to influence culture. Culture will influence language. Language will influence society. Society will influence language. I will give you one more simple example, my dear. In the context of society, you see, gender determines my language. Right? Now, for suppose, abusive words. Abusive words. It is normalized that men can speak but women cannot and should not. When men speak, it is macho. But when women speak, it is ill culture. Sariga penchla. Oh, no bench aithe. If a male candidate is speaking some abusive language, it doesn't even draw your attention. Now suddenly if the female enters the conversation and left and right she is giving with all the kinds of lineage of the opposite person being brought into the conversation. What will happen? Akka. What is that? The norms are being determined. The norms are being determined. Same age. Now you see, when you're grown up, after 21, 22, 23, 24, you will have little liberty of using these words in the house. Little liberty. But if you're 5th class, what will happen? You know what your mom is going to do? right? Either comb or chipuru, whatever is going to break. Yes. So fundamentally, what is observed here for me, whole of this is that is what I study in linguistic anthro. Now, when we look at the third branch of anthropology, that is physical anthro. Indirectly, I'm introducing you to whole of the syllabus of anthropology through 1.3. Now, when you look at physical anthro, for me, physical anthropology is nothing but biological anthropology, but not biology. It is biological anthropology. Now, when I say it is biological anthropology, what am I dealing with respect to this physical anthro and biological anthro is very simple. Trying to understand man family studies. Trying to understand man family studies. That means I am trying to understand the principles of inheritance. I am trying to understand the principles of inheritance. Yes or no? Yes. Now, how is that respective gene transmitted to the next generation? In case if two people of a respective gene are meeting and mating, what is the corresponding offspring going to be? So I'm trying to understand most of my inheritance patterns, not only with respect to individual, but I'm also trying to understand this inheritance patterns with respect to what, my dear? Family. That is why I'm calling it as what? That is why I'm calling it as man family studies. That is why I'm calling it as man family studies. The second thing that we study about is we also study about what are the various forces of evolution. In the process of evolution, what are the various forces which are acting upon the individual? What are the various forces that are present which are determining in nature? Now, when we get to see this, what are the various forces of evolution which are present? You see something like natural selection. What is natural selection? Survival of the fittest. You know, somebody who is fit will be selected. Somebody who is weak will be selected or will go extinct. Will go extinct. Selection. A mutation. What is mutation? Sudden change. Sudden change is going to be mutation. Selection. Mutation. Migration. What is migration? Movement. Movement. Now you see Indians migrating around. And not only migrating around, but they are also meeting and mating other populations. Indians have that capacity. Now they go to Australia, they be written as Indo-Australian population. They go to Africa, Indo-African population. They go to US, Indo-American. నీ ఇష్టం ఏటి పోయినా ఇండో కామన్ కదా. But will it ever happen Indo-Pakistan population? Impossible. Impossible. We are very clear. Right? We are okay with Sri Lanka, but not okay with Pakistan. Are you understanding? That means what? Because of this migration also we will have the respective different genes being infused. Now don't you think some gene which is present in Australia will be brought to India by somebody who is Indo-Australian? Possible, no? Now when this gene is being brought to India, then again further it's going to be propagated. Now what will happen? This Fuddu fellow will go to Africa and start mating and Indo-Australian African khichdi. So what is seen to be happening with the gene base here? The gene base is getting diverse. And in the process of evolution, how is this gene base which is getting diverse is going to help me? Is going to take me forward? That will determine what is the forces of evolution. Then apart from that, we would also study the major aspects of health and disease. We will also study the major aspects of health and disease. When I say health and disease, we would majorly study how is the disease profile changing. How is the disease profile changing? And what is the understanding of health? How do you understand health? Now, when I say how do you understand health, what is the changing understanding of health? What does that mean? Now, I'll give you a simple example. Now, for somebody, for suppose, for me, somebody who is well built, somebody who is solid, somebody who is strong is healthy. So, for me, somebody who is diseased will be like somebody who is very lean. But for that person, what will that person think? That somebody who is lean, somebody who is thin, somebody who has that six pack is considered as what? Zero size is considered as what? Healthy. But for him, I might look diseased. Are you understanding? Now you look at African population. In African population, you see there is something called as steatopegia. What is steatopegia? You see that healthy fat buttocks is considered as what, my dear? Healthy fat buttocks in African population is considered as a sign of fertility. As a sign of fertility, that is steatopegia. Now, in the context of India, do we consider that aspect? When I have lot of abdominal fat, when I have lot of fat depositions with respect to the buttocks, what is going to happen? I'm going to consider it as obesity. So, health to them is not health to us. Health to us is not health to them. Tomorrow we will discuss on a later date when we're discussing about epidemiological transition. I'll talk about Coca-Cola tribe. There is one tribe which has replaced the consumption of water with Coca-Cola in Mexico. The fundamental reason is they have established a Coca-Cola factory in their area. And this factory is consuming all the water. So the tribe there started experiencing water crisis and they have replaced that water crisis with Coca-Cola. For festivals, they offer Coca-Cola. For rituals, they offer Coca-Cola. When they feel thirsty, they will offer Coca-Cola. When you are hungry, they will offer Coca-Cola. When they are bored, they will drink Coca-Cola. The problem is not consuming Coca-Cola. The problem here is because of consumption of Coca-Cola among this particular tribe, what was observed that over 48% increase in the incidence of diabetes. Over 48% incidence of increase with respect to what? Lifestyle diseases. And more than 60% of the deaths were attributed to increased consumption of Coca-Cola. Are you understanding? That means we are trying to understand how is the disease changing, how is the disease profile changing, and how is the understanding of health changing. Now I'll tell you, Hikokomori, it's a kind of understanding in Japanese society. And what do you see? Japanese are mostly against surgeries. అవునా మనకి ఏదన్నా అయితే వాట్ డు వి డు వి సే తీసేయి సర్జరీ. But Japanese believe, that is why the cesareans in Japanese are very less. Japanese believe that if a body undergoes a surgery, the intactness of the body is lost. And the originality of the body is going to be lost. And they believe when the intactness of the body is lost, they would not achieve the stage of liberation in life. Ante the moksha, for us it is moksha, the liberation is associated for them in Japan with the intactness of the body. And that's again a perception of what, my dear? Health. Are you understanding? In physical anthro, we study about those. Not only that, we also study about disease diagnosis. We also study about disease treatment. We also study about disease prevention. We also study about various vaccines and medicines. We also study about various vaccines and medicines, disease prevention. And more importantly, we also see how is applied human genetics. How is applied human genetics treating my disease? That is where we study about one particular technology called as rDNA technology, that is recombinant DNA technology. If I have to simply tell you, how is my biotechnology enabling me to treat my disease? How is my biotechnology enabling me to diagnose my disease? So depending upon the diagnosis, depending upon the treatment, how am I going to decide my prevention? How am I going to decide my medicine? And more importantly, we would also study, when I'm studying about medicine, we would also study the scope of physical anthro is to understand what is ethnomedicine. To understand what is ethnomedicine. When we say it is to understand ethnomedicine, please understand. The word ethno in anthropology for us will mean culture. Because we will have ethnography, ethnology, ethnomedicine. Right? Ethno means what? Culture. Ethno means what? Culture. Ethno-archaeology in 1.3. Ethno-archaeology is combination of archaeology and culture. Ethno-medicine is combination of physical anthropology and culture. Are you understanding? So we will see various aspects with respect to that, and ethno-medicine is nothing but the traditional medicine. It is nothing but the traditional medicine. For example, turmeric in milk, ginger, pepper, lemon, you name it, it is there. Neem, ashwagandha. Yes or no? All of these are what matter. All of these are the traditional aspects. And how is this culture, how is this traditional aspect being used? Now, for example, you see chicken pox. When chicken pox comes, what do? My dear? They crush the neem and apply. And they will make you drink that toddy, kallu. Yes, what is that? It is believed that it is all about ethnomedicine. Are you understanding? Now, have you seen this manikattu? What do? They put some traditional aspects and again they will tie, and they fundamentally believe in the process of healing. Have you seen this tayattu? Amulet? Yes. What do they say? Mantrinchadam. And what do they believe, my dear? Now, at least bachpan mein, you would have experienced that when you are experiencing high fever or jaundice or something, our parents would have taken to this fellow. We'll study about him also in Anthro. In Magico, religious functionaries in the 5th chapter, we will study medicine man, sorcerer, priest, witchcraft, right? And we will also study about Chetabadlu, black magic in Anthro. Now you might be wondering, sir, will you teach us how to do? I will only teach the subject behind. I will not teach how to do. Is this clear? Right? So this is the scope with respect to what? Physical anthro. Not only that, with respect to physical anthro here, it also enables me to deal with the medico-legal cases. And medico-legal cases I would handle through what, my dear? I would handle through forensic anthropology. Medico-legal cases I would handle through what? I would handle through forensic anthropology. What is forensics? Medico-legal cases. How am I going to use the medical knowledge to resolve the legal cases? For example, you see this paternity conflict. Generally, you will have this, that who is the father? One, you go for DNA test. The other one is simple blood group arrangement. Yes or no? Now, for suppose, say, the kid is having AB. The kid is having AB. Ante what should be the probability, my dear? The probability should be somebody should be A, somebody should be B. Somebody ante mother, father, technically. Right? So, what is the combination? AB, AO, BO, OO. Idi, 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 idi. That is what we are writing. So, what is this kid is supposed to have? Either AB, either AO, either BO, or OO. Now, that fellow has AB. But the original father, right, before some kirikiri happening, the original father's blood group is O. Mother's blood group is B. Now, where did this A come from? Are you understanding this, my dear? Basic prima facie understanding through Punnett square. This is called as Punnett square. This is the maximum biology you study. What is this permutation combination? This is also useful for our future. Important. In understanding, suppose if I marry somebody of some blood group, what is the probability of my kid? Yes or no? So what is it going to happen? BO. Probability చెప్పండమ్మా BO, OO, BO, OO. Maximum ఏంటి? B అన్న ఉండాలి, O అన్న ఉండాలి. ఇది AB ఎట్లా వచ్చింది? How did this happen? That means there is somebody else's hand in this. And this is what is called as paternity diagnosis. You will go and see the last second line of 12th chapter. It will be written paternity diagnosis. It will be written paternity diagnosis applied human genetics hyphen. Kada? Simple diagnosis. Now, don't you think this is a legal case which I am handling through medical knowledge? Yes. Now, you see, crime scenes. Right? You say you'll have to collect the evidence. Not only crime scene. Now, article very important. After that Pune issue and all, now it's important. So, crime scenes, disaster scenes. Now, in Venezuela, they have retrieved the bodies. Now, how will you identify which body is whose? Now, that is why in physical anthro, as part of forensics, you study something called as facial reconstruction and personal identification. And that personal identification and reconstruction is definitely part of what, my dear? Definitely part of forensic anthro, medico-legal cases. Important branch of anthropology, and definitely one question from forensic every year. I can never see a question paper of physical anthro without forensic. Then apart from that, we also study with respect to designing. The ambit of physical anthro is designing with respect to various equipments, designing with respect to defense, and we call this as ergonomics. You know, heard about ergonomics? Especially they say that this will have an ergonomical chair. Tomorrow when you are studying too much, because now you are anthropology students, so you will have to study so much, right? And when you're studying so much, suddenly you will have back pain, and you start searching for some orthopedic chair. And when you're searching for orthopedic chair, all the advertisements will come as ergonomically designed chair. Ergonomics ante entama, that is according to the design of the body. And what is used in designing? What is used in designing? The thing that is used in designing is what is anthropometry. The used in designing is what? Anthropometry. Metry ante enti? Measurement. Anthropo ante enti? Anthropology. Human being. I'm measuring the human being. I'll tell you a simple example. Design of clothes. Now you see, once upon a time, somebody getting a size above 44 was very difficult. And somebody getting a size less than S was very difficult. But today we have plus size market. Plus size market is very famous today. And how is this plus size market becoming famous, my dear? Now, when I observe India, you find that through anthropometry, when you measure, you see one section of the society which is experiencing this obesity as a problem is driven towards what? Plus size market. So the design of clothes is happening through what? Anthropometry. Adi pakkan bettu. You have taken your phone? Yes. Now, any phone that you take, you see you can access the phone from top to toe with the thumb. Check it. From top to bottom of the phone, you can access with thumb. If you are unable to access, then it is not phone, it is tab. I know, I have these experiences. People coming and ask, sir, you told it will access. What in the jumble what coach the tab phone gal. You see, now who told you that I should design my phone which is accessible to thumb? Anthropometry. Anthropometry. Have you seen water bottle? Yes. Now just imagine if this fat part was here and this thin part was here. Did you ever see any water bottle like that? Why? Because through anthropometry you realize that you have something called as gripping nature of thumb. The major catch that you see is because of what? Gripping nature of thumb. And from where am I getting this design, my dear? Through anthropometry, through the measurements of human being. And anthropometry is definitely an application of what? Physical anthro. And we are able to do that. Have you seen spoon? Have you seen any spoon? Any spoon with that and being small? What is the inherent character of the spoon? Definitely the handle is longer than that. Even if you take ice cream spoon, in ice cream spoon, I don't know how many of you have seen, you would have seen the ice cream spoon will be designed in this manner. Why? Why? Now the length is very small. I will not have gripping. Now, when I need gripping with respect to the small handle, I definitely need to accommodate my thumb. And for me to accommodate my thumb, I will have this broad base. Who is telling all of this? Anthropometry. So anthropometry is very important in what, my dear? In designing of the equipments which are present. So forensics, ergonomics. You will also see sports, something called as kin anthropometry. Something called as kin anthropometry. What is kin anthropometry? Kin means sports. Kinesics అంటే ఏంటి? Movement. Right? You would see the respective sports will be played by the respective body type. Yes or no? Now I keep telling this example. You see, some of the greatest batsmen are somebody who is short. A.B. de Villiers, David Warner, Sachin Tendulkar, the rising superstar Vaibhav Suryavanshi. Comparatively taller. Some of the greatest batsmen are what? Shorter people. Bauma of South Africa. Right? That Bangladeshi player, captain, he was there. Not Shakib. Shakib is also. Shakib is also an example. Apart from that, no, Musfir Rahman or somebody. Lefty. Now you see, all of these people are what? Short. Why? Their center of mass is balanced. Their center of mass is more balanced, and they would have the balanced stand when it comes to the cricket. Have you seen Glenn Phillips? Have you seen Michael Phillips? Who is Michael Phillips? Swimming. He has more than 28 Olympic medals. Yes, have you seen him? Now, why he was having so many medals? Because of his physiology. You see long arms and long legs which are suitable what? Swimming. Right? Have you seen somebody weightlifting? Find anybody who is weightlifting to be 6 foot. If that fellow is 6 foot, don't you think the displacement has to be too much? Generally, you see medium height people or the short height people with well built will be engaged in what? Weightlifting. Who is going to decide all of this? In anthropometry, that is sports. So this is the ambit of physical anthropology. And the last branch that you see is archaeological anthropology. The last branch that you see is archaeological anthropology. In archaeological anthropology, what do you come across? You see, you majorly focus upon evolutionary studies. You majorly focus upon evolutionary studies. One. Not only that, you also study various fossils. You also study primates. You also study the primate culture which has seen to be evolved. And not only that, as part of archaeological anthropology, you study a lot of lithic cultures. Lithic culture here means, please understand how did the biology evolve, and not only the biology evolve, but how did the culture evolve. And as part of the cultural aspect, you would be studying about the tool technologies which have emerged. That is the scope of archaeological anthropology. And you will also see what are the various technologies which are present with respect to archaeological excavations. What are the various technologies which are present for archaeological excavation? Now, I cannot randomly go on site one particular area and say, here I can dig. No, I need some surveying. I need some imaging. I need some excavation technology. Now, can I go and simply start digging? In the process, I can damage the artifacts. So, I need to have a specialized methods of excavation. And not only that, in order to find out the age of the respective artifacts, we have something called as various dating methodologies are studied. Various dating methodologies are studied. Now, those dating methods could be what? Those dating methods could be absolute dating methods or relative dating methods. Absolute dating methods or relative dating methods. So that means if they ask you what is the scope and relevance of anthropology, scope of socio-cultural, scope of linguistic, scope of physical, scope of archaeological, they can ask you as a 10 marker individual branch. Or if they ask you branches of anthropology, straight away define anthro and then get into Franz Boas classification of branches of anthropology, and each of the branch you write one line and talk about what is the scope. Is this clear? Now, if you observe, in all of these, whatever we have studied will be covered in what perspective? Biological perspective, cultural perspective, social perspective, environmental perspective. It will be studied something which is static and something which is dynamic. It will be studied in an objective analysis as well as subjective analysis. In an objective analysis as well as subjective analysis. All of these will be studied with the present society, will be studied in the past society, will be studied in the modern or future societies. That is what is going to make anthropology unique and special. We will study all of these branches not only in the biological, cultural, social, and environmental perspective. We will also study the static and dynamic aspect. We will also study the objective and subjective aspect. Subjective and changing. We will also study in the present societies, past societies, and future societies. Right? We'll meet tomorrow and I'll make you understand how is anthropology unique. If you understand how is anthropology unique, automatically you can write an answer of 1.2. What is 1.2? Various branches. Is this clear? By tomorrow we will finish 1.1 to 1.3. That's all. Because what are we doing? We are consolidating. If you know the structure, any question on 1.1 to 1.3 can be addressed. Is this clear? Right? We'll meet tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Any doubts? Understanding? Right? What is anthropology? Study of you and me. What circus are we doing? What circus society is doing? What circus we have done to become like this? Right? And if we do some circus, what will happen in the future? That is about anthropology. We'll meet tomorrow, 11 o'clock. Thank you.